Welcome to The Late Show, everybody. I'm your host, Stephen Colbert. Look, I don't know. Hey, friends. Hey, friends. I don't know what you all are talking about, but everybody I talk to is talking about what Donald Trump doesn't want to talk about. So let's talk about it. Do you ever think the President of the United States would be celebrating your unemployment?
I mean, that son of a, you know, is really unbelievable.
Mr. Son of a bitch.
I mean,
Mr. Son of
his royal. Yes, yeah, no, I never imagined that we'd ever have a president like this, and I hope we don't ever have another president like this again.
America's Philistine president has had himself appointed head of one of our premier cultural institutions. He has cut funding and support to the arts, humanities, and education. And now he has announced a 100% tariff on films produced outside the U.S. Let that sink in for a minute. You can't put a price on creativity, but apparently you can put a tariff on it. Of course, this is unacceptable. All these attacks are unacceptable.
The wreckage of Trump's presidency is a comedy goldmine, and Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert aren't just poking fun at him. They're shredding him like a paper shredder on steroids. The hook is simple. Here's a man who promised greatness, built monuments to his own ego, and delivered chaos wrapped in gold spray paint. The punchline? He's not the hero of his own story. He's the blooper reel. That's why every jab lands, because the material writes itself.
And there are days that make you go, oh my God. And then there are days that make you go, whoa, my God. Today was one of those days. Yeah. In fact, the lighthearted story to start our monologue tonight is that it looks like the federal government, which is entirely controlled by the Republican Party, is going to shut down in about 20 minutes.
De Niro added a darker layer to this picture, going after Trump not just as a failure, but as a danger. He framed Trump as someone who thrived on chaos, a man who couldn't survive in a room without conflict. To De Niro, Trump wasn't a leader, but an arsonist, someone who set political fires just so he could stand in front of the blaze and declare himself the hero. The bravado, the tweets, the endless cycle of outrage, they weren't signs of strength, De Niro argued, but symptoms of weakness. What the world saw as power was really insecurity dressed up in capital letters and exclamation marks.
It makes me so angry that this country has gotten to this point, that this fool, this bozo, has wound up where he has. He talks how he wants to punch people in the face. Well, I'd like to punch him in the face. This is somebody that we want for president? I don't think so. What I care about is the direction of this country. And what I'm very, very worried about is that it might go in the wrong direction with someone like Donald Trump.
Then comes the obsession with size, crowd numbers, and ratings, Trump's holy trinity of validation. Kimmel hammers this endlessly, reminding the world that the President of the United States behaves like a C-list celebrity desperate for applause. Colbert digs deeper, showing how this vanity reveals the insecurity of a man who never grew beyond the fragile ego of a reality TV star. Trump doesn't just want to win, he wants to be adored. And when adoration doesn't arrive, he declares it fake news. It's less a presidency and more a toddler tantrum set to cable news coverage.
My fellow Americans, I come to you tonight with the sobering news that our nation is at war with Oregon. It's War-oregon. How did we arrive at this dark day? I don't know. But when was it, Saturday? Saturday morning, Donald Trump posted, I am directing Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged...
Businessman, showman, disruptor, but Stephen Colbert and Robert De Niro saw through all the branding and stripped it down to something far simpler, an act. To them, Trump wasn't the bold maverick or fearless outsider he sold himself as. He was simply the loudest guy in the room, pitching a product that didn't work, yet convincing millions it was priceless. Their roast exposed the illusion, leaving the salesman without his spectacle.
The president was buddies with a pedophile. On Friday, the Wall Street Journal dropped an absolute bombshell. They are reporting that in 2003, Trump sent a birthday letter to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday that was sexually suggestive. Yeah, it's the most inappropriate birthday gift since Carvel debuted Fudgy the Hung Like a Whale. Now,
if you're enjoying this video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Colbert mocked the performance like a late-night parody that never ended, while De Niro came at it with the raw ferocity of someone who despises cheap theatrics. Together, they demolished the illusion, showing Trump not as a titan of politics, but as a character so addicted to spectacle that he mistook applause for leadership. Colbert wasted no time cutting into the mythos of Trump as a dealmaker. He framed him not as a master of negotiation, but as a man who never actually finished anything.
For years, before he was, reelected, and recently, since they all got into office, a bunch of high-ranking people in Trump's administration have kept promising to release the files surrounding Jeffrey Epstein, his mysterious clients, and his suspicious death. But now, suddenly, for reasons that I legally cannot think of, Donald Trump seems desperate to stop us from knowing who Jeffrey Epstein's clients were.
Colbert circled back to Trump's obsession with image. He roasted the obsession with crowd sizes, the compulsive need to insist everything was the biggest, the best, the most beautiful. Colbert described it like a child with a crayon crown scribbling world's greatest on every surface he could find. He highlighted how Trump's self-promotion wasn't the mark of confidence, but of someone terrified of being forgotten. The endless bragging, Colbert said, wasn't about achievements, but about desperately filling the silence that follows when you actually have nothing to show.
Now, suddenly, for reasons that I legally cannot think of, Donald Trump seems desperate to stop us from knowing who Jeffrey Epstein's clients were. In fact, yesterday, he said he was surprised anyone even cares about the guy.
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life.
That sentence was never a big factor in terms of word.
Do you really worry that if he were to win again, and I'm not saying this like it's such a far-fetched notion, if he were to win again, that he would not give up power?
You know he won't. You know he won't. He even said it. He's never going to give it up. And anybody who deludes themselves in thinking that he is, shame on you.
De Niro matched that energy by focusing on Trump's theatrical persona. To him, every entrance, every gesture, every exaggerated hand motion was part of a performance. De Niro described it as method acting gone wrong. Trump had convinced himself that playing the role of a strongman actually made him one. Colbert's jokes softened the blows only to make them land harder. De Niro's fury amplified the absurdity until it was undeniable. Together, they crafted a demolition job that didn't just tear at Trump's image, but collapsed the entire mythology built around him. Trump wasn't exposed as a misunderstood genius or a tragic figure. He was revealed as a salesman who sold America an empty product, a carnival barker whose show has run too long past the point of entertainment.